In the 1930s, America was hit by a wave of organized crime. The FBI spent many years trying to catch and convict mobsters like Al Capone. When they finally arrested him, they had to make sure he stayed locked up. To contain this new breed of super gangster, the US government planned to build a super prison. They found the perfect location, an island in the middle of San Francisco Bay called Alcatraz. On the island was an old military fort sitting in a deep pit cut into the rock. Workers demolished the old building and built 3 stories of steel-reinforced concrete cell blocks on top. None of the 600 cells had any contact to the outer walls. They were a prison within a prison. Each cell was fitted with unbreakable steel gates, which had no keys, but could be opened remotely. Alcatraz was the biggest concrete structure in the world, and supposedly the most secure prison on the planet. Bob Luke arrived in Alcatraz in 1954, looking forward to 12 years on the rock.
The boat made a wide turn, and then I could see the island. And first I saw the houses down the bottom, and then looked up and the prison was sitting up on top of the island. So that was my first glimpse of Alcatraz. It looked like to me like a French chateau, but I knew that this was no country home. This was going to be my prison for several years. Of course, we all had heard of Alcatraz. It was going to be the end of the line.
Alcatraz was the last stop for America's most dangerous and violent offenders.
This is my mugshot. It was taken the first day I got here in April 1954. It was just a young thug that beat you up just as soon as look at you, hold up banks. I was a burglar, car thief, served 11 or 12 years in prison for all that. So I was a different guy.
To keep people like young Bob safely locked up, engineers fitted the cell doors with an extremely tough kind of prison bar.
When they opened the prison up in 1934, these all were done over with tool steels. You can't cut these bars, even if you had a hacksaw blade. They're impossible. There's a heavy, hardened tool steel inside this bar. I used to come in at 12 o'clock at midnight and walk these tiers counting, and I always felt fairly safe, you know.
The doors weren't just unbreakable, they locked without keys. They gave a whole new meaning to the term, the slammer.
We've got 13 doors that we can open from this one box. And the officer would yell down the row here, rack 'em, just giving them a heads up that the doors are going to be closing. That's where you get the true sound of the slammer. Rack 'em! And this is part of the punishments of Alcatraz here in this door, open and close every day.
Well, the first time you hear that door slam, it's like being entombed. You know, you just know that this is going to be it for a while.
Alcatraz looked like the perfect prison, a concrete fortress brimming with technology. It didn't even need a fence around it, as it was surrounded by the icy currents of San Francisco Bay.
When I used to work the towers, I used to see logs maybe 8, 9 feet long going out with the tide as if it had an outboard motor on it. Out it would go.
Oh, sure, I wanted to try to escape from anywhere, but I always thought it was impossible to try here, so I just give up even, you know, thinking about it.
Despite all the technology at Alcatraz, 3 inmates went missing in 1962. All that was left of them were 3 dummies made of soap, toilet paper, and hair stolen from the barbershop. And of course, the big holes they had scraped into the concrete walls of their cells with a spoon.
The cells are back to back with a corridor in between, nothing but pipes. They crawl right up to the top. And once they got up there, they can't be seen. It must have took a year or 2 years of continuous planning. Kind of amazing how that was allowed to happen.
Despite a massive search operation, there was no trace of the prisoners.
I don't believe anyone ever escaped from Alcatraz. Most people don't realize the closest these inmates ever got to water was to take a shower. Now you could imagine panic-stricken 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, jumping into that bay. No way. My impression is that if they got into the water, they may have got out 100 yards or so and then goodbye.
Whether the men escaped or not, the fate of Alcatraz was sealed. An investigation revealed that the supposedly escape-proof concrete was to blame for the breakout. Alcatraz used seawater to flush the toilets. It trickled from leaky pipes and seeped into the walls. Brick chips in the concrete soaked up the water and swelled like sponges, wedging open fissures. Eventually, the reinforcing steel bars started to rust and expand, and the concrete cracked even more. After 30 years, the formerly super-strong walls were so crumbly that they weren't even a match for a spoon. The leaky concrete would have cost millions to repair, so in 1963, Alcatraz closed its doors for the last time. But the lessons from the rock live on.